why does Anne Frank matter so much to the Dutch?
Well, Anne Frank is a refugee. Let's start with that. Anne Frank was a refugee who came to the Netherlands, who lived peacefully with her family in the Netherlands. Then the German invasion came, she had to go into hiding, and at the end of the war she was caught. After all, her family was caught. They all went to Germany, were deported to concentration camps in Germany, and only the father, Otto Frank, comes back. And all the other members of her family perish. She has a diary, and the diary is a wonderful book of a young girl who basically talks about her aspiration. What will I do when I get out of here, when this war is over? And she talks about her life in hiding in the house, or in the part of the house where she lives, and about her aspiration when I get out. And it's a fantastically touching book, because you know how it ends. You know what really became of her, and if you read the book with that knowledge, yes, it becomes very, very emotional almost. Yeah.
Dreams unfulfilled.
Dream unfulfilled, and the optimism of the girl, and the very down-to-earth description how she lives, because there are two families, and there's this third person who lives, and then she likes some and she doesn't like some, and the daily routine, and then the ambitions of a young girl who grows into a woman. Yeah.
And how does that figure into the Dutch mentality of today, looking at immigration or migration?
We have been, in general, pretty generous in our immigration. We are a very densely populated country, more than 17 million, in an area as big as Maryland. So we are densely populated, but we are very well aware that we have built our society, and we are a prosperous country. And we have built our society from the 15th, 16th century onwards as being a tolerant, welcoming country. We were the ones who welcomed Jewish people who were exiled or who were kicked out of Spain and Portugal. The Protestants had to leave France a century later. The Quakers had to leave England. Actually, some of the Quakers went to Holland and then ended up in the US. And we have prospered. We have profited from welcoming people with different skills, different ideas, blending them into our society, and we realize that when that happens, the sum of all your talents is more than all your talents separately. So yes, we are used to immigration. I will not conceal that what is happening at the moment, especially in Europe, is a lot of immigration, a lot of people who want to come in, and we have difficulties now in integrating, because what we want is to integrate them. It's wonderful that you come, it's wonderful that we can welcome you, but in the end, if you come to the Netherlands and you want to live here, you have to integrate in Dutch society. You have to contribute to what we try to achieve. And that's difficult.
Including language and customs?
Including language and customs. We are a tolerant society. You can hardly force everybody to talk perfect Dutch, because the language is, especially in pronunciation, is quite difficult. But for instance, our customs are our customs. If we are one of the first country, if not the first country, that allowed gay marriage. That's the rule of the land. And if you come to us, then you have to accept it. I want to come to the Netherlands, and there are certain things that happens in the Netherlands, and I will abide by the rule of the land. Yeah.
Including holding an open and tolerant attitudes towards others.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's, if we wouldn't have that, then you wouldn't be allowed in a way. You cannot say, you know, now I am allowed in, and now I will not be tolerant towards others. No, you are there because we were tolerant towards you. now you're part of us, and now you have to show the same attitude as we have shown to you, to other people.
I understand back in the 17th century, Holland was a refuge for some European intellectuals fleeing from their own homelands.
Absolutely.
But one can say, make an argument, back then those were individual intellectuals. Nowadays you have hundreds and maybe thousands of people coming.
Sure.
Numbers do matter.
Numbers do matter.
And can overwhelm, perhaps.
Numbers do matter, can overwhelm, and let's say a lot of the refugees now, and let's be very clear what a refugee is. A refugee cannot go home. Is somebody who has lost his home, and if he would go back, his life would be in danger, his family would be in danger, so there is no way back for him. Maybe one day there will be, and then maybe he will go back, but for the moment that he applies for refugee status, there's no way back for him. There are quite a lot. There are more than 60 million refugees in the world, a displaced person in the world at the moment. When they come to the Netherlands, we have to take care of them. So which means we have to provide housing, we have to provide food. It's very important if they come with children that we educate their children, that we get them into schools. I think one of the worst things that you see at the moment, and that's for instance what we'll remember at the Anne Frank Award ceremony that's going to happen on Thursday, is that in refugee camps, if we do not educate the children, if you do not give the children hope, like Anne Frank writes about her ambitions, if you don't give them scope for their ambitions, you create a whole generation of people who will hold us accountable and said, hey guys, you could help me and you didn't. Why didn't you give me an education? Why didn't you help me and give me the opportunity to become a citizen that can be a productive citizen and can contribute to the world?
So from what I hear, the Dutch government's policy is, if we take you, we'll take whole responsibility.
Yeah, we'll take you. If we take you, if you get your refugee status and we acknowledge your refugee status, then we'll help you with housing. We'll give you housing from the beginning, and then you have to work, and then you, at a certain moment, you'll go out of refugee status, but you go out from government-supported housing, and you'll pay for your own room, and you'll be a citizen like any other Dutch citizen. You work, you pay your taxes. We make sure that your kids go to school and you can live a productive life in the Netherlands.
Does the fact that several of the terrorist attacks in European countries originates from the second generation of immigrant families, does that play a role in the government's thinking that we really have to get on or get involved with educating the younger generation?
Yeah. I think that is one of the, if you look at the terrorist attacks in Europe, a high percentage of those attacks are, let's call them homegrown terrorists. They are not terrorists who come from abroad, but were already in the country and radicalized during their stay in your country.
Of immigrant.
Of immigrant, yeah, migrant background. As you say, second generation young men mainly. And that's a worry. Why do they radicalize? Why are they not happy? Why do they take such a radical different path in our society, from our society, and
against our society?
Yeah, against our society, luckily, we haven't had a major terrorist attack in the Netherlands.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm saying that, I'm sort of realizing that maybe I shouldn't jinx it, but no, luckily we haven't. I think because we put an enormous amount of emphasis on integration. We put an enormous amount of emphasis on, let's say, a low-level policing. Lots of our police guys are on bike, are walking through the neighborhoods, know their neighbors and know the neighborhood. So yeah, we try to get in there at a very low level and talk to people.
You mean on a grassroots?
On the grassroots level, we try to get in there on the grassroots level and say, you know what, if you have a problem, I'm your neighborhood policeman, and I'm more than just your policeman. I can also be your counselor. I can show you the way, and so on. Again, we try to reach out to them at a very grassroots, low background level. Yeah.
Yeah. And when did this approach start taking effect?
Quite some time back already. We have had immigration, worker immigration already since the 50s, 60s, when we were developing our economy, our country after the Second World War, and we realized that we just simply didn't have enough people to do that. So we start with mainly Turkish immigrants in the 50s, 60s. They are well integrated by now. We have various people also having high positions in parliament, ministers. Then came Northern Africans, exactly the same. We have a Northern African, we have a Moroccan mayor of Rotterdam, who is wildly popular, is now in his second term. And he is the classic example of somebody who came at a young age with his parents to the Netherlands. And yeah, if you say in America, he made it. He made it, and he made it because he's integrated, he speaks the languages, he studied, and he feels Dutch, and he is Dutch, from Moroccan descent, but he's Dutch.
Second generation?
Second generation, yeah, second generation.
And other immigrants, younger generation immigrants can look at him and say,
And he talks to them. He addresses them directly, and he can do that because he should be their example. Look, this is what I can become, and being mayor of the second biggest city in the Netherlands and the biggest port in Europe and everything that entails is a very high position.
That is quite impressive.
Yeah, yeah.
Success story.
Real success story. Real success story. Yeah.
And are the Netherlands looking to share this experience with other countries like Belgium? Or?
Yeah, we have. Before coming here, I was ambassador in Belgium, and we have, for instance, twinning of cities. For instance, in this field, where you say, okay, I have a city in the Netherlands who has roughly the same population as you have, and can we exchange experiences? This is how I do it, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes you say, okay, well, this worked with me, and it works with them as well, and sometimes there's still cultural differences, and it's more difficult, but it helps enormously already if mayors start to talk to each other, as city councils start to talk to each other, and know that my problem is not unique to my city. You know what, there are many, many cities who have the same problems, and everybody has some sort of their own solutions, but there are certain constants in those solutions which will work for all of them. So we have quite a lot of twinning.
So more intercity exchange?
Intercity exchange, because if you want to solve this integration, you have to do it at the regional, at the city level. This is not something that the government can say, you will be integrated from now on. No, you have to do that at the grassroots level.
City and township and
absolutely.
Yeah, community level.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.